Hello, I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. Can you name a single important female scientist who isn't Marie Curie? Probably not. But my guest today can name scores of them, and she does exactly that in her new book, Headstrong, 52 Women Who Changed Science and the World. Rachel Swaby has written a fascinating collection of profiles of women who made important contributions to science, math, and medicine, but who most of us have never heard of. Why? Who were they? What did they do? And why have their accomplishments gone so long hidden from the public? The book is published by Broadway Books. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So why a book on women in science?
Well, it actually started with an obituary in 2013, and the obituary was for this woman named Yvonne Brill. She was a rocket scientist. But if you were to read the obituary itself, it was in the New York Times, you would go down, and it started with something like, she made a mean beef stroganoff, she followed her husband from town to town, and she was the world's best mom, her son said. And it wasn't until the second paragraph that they said, oh, and also she was a rocket scientist, maybe the only woman working in rocket science in the 1940s. Oh, and also she was, she designed a propulsion system that keeps satellites in orbit. Like all of these things that you would not have known if you had only read the first paragraph. Mm-hmm. And so there was a big outcry on Twitter, like, oh, we need better profiles of women in science. And then all of a sudden, I thought, yeah, we should have better profiles of women in science, and a way to collect them. So.
Very few of the women in this book are known to the general public. People know Rachel Carson because the environmentalist. They know about Florence Nightingale, although they know her for her nursing, not necessarily for her path-breaking work in public health. I happen to know about Virginia Apgar because we went to the same college, so they talk and they celebrate. She's one of our famous alums. Sally Ride, because she was the first woman to go into space, but not for her other work that she did. Hedy Lamarr, of all people, for her work as an actress, not for her work as an inventor. That really blew me away. So how did you find out about these hidden geniuses whose contributions were often obscure, even though they may have been path-breaking?
Yeah, I had a lot of help from people who've been researching this for a really long time. And so what I found were there are people who have kind of collected some history of women in science, but all you'd get was maybe where they went to university and that they kind of published this paper, but you didn't get any of the kind of history of their lives. There is a book called Nobel Prize Women in Science, which is really amazing and goes into like really deep histories, but there are only so many of them. And so the hope with this was to kind of pull a lot of stories together. And the people in the book had not only to have kind of a great kind of accomplishment in science, but I had to have the research to kind of tell a whole story with it. So I wasn't able to include everybody who should be there because sometimes the research about their lives just wasn't available.
And you intentionally did not choose Marie Curie, and all of the women that you chose are deceased. What was your reason for that?
Right. Okay, so for Marie Curie, I didn't include her because I felt like every time I had a conversation with someone about this book, she was the only person that anyone named. And this is the colleagues that I really respected, people who should know better. I mean, there was a deck of cards that I got at a stoop sale across the street from my house right as I started researching the book, and I was like, it was famous scientists, and I thought, oh, this will be so great, you know. I'll have this kind of as my start. And of course, Marie Curie was the only person included. And I felt like it was a little bit of a cop-out. We have posters of her, but nobody else. And so I thought that we should move beyond her. And then deceased, oh, that was so hard. I felt like I really wanted, there are so many amazing women working in science today, but as we were talking about the scope of the book and who to include and who not to, we decided that only including women who were deceased meant that we knew the whole totality of their work, that we could talk about their work without kind of thinking and think about the historical context of it.
In an earlier era, women were deliberately kept out of medical school. out of university science programs, out of certain jobs in science. And the reason was supposedly benign, because the word was that this kind of work, this kind of study, was damaging to their health. And so we want to protect them from that.
Yeah, I mean, the reasons why women shouldn't be in this field just were awful. I mean, then there was like nepotism, you know, if their husband is working in a university, like the wife shouldn't be able to. And so there were all different ways that that universities tried to kind of keep women out, or they wouldn't pay them. They said, oh, okay, sure, you can be here and you can work, but we won't give you an office or we won't pay you.
But it was not protectionism. It was really just sort of plain old sex discrimination, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was awful.
So you were starting to talk about some of the obstacles that women face trying to pursue their interest in science. For instance, you were saying that if the woman's husband was also a scientist, you know, there were these nepotism rules. So only one of them could work at the university, and he was always the one.
Yes.
So often the woman could not get jobs.
So like the Coreys were a great example, like Gertie and Carl Corey. They at some point they worked together. They went through university together, and then when they moved to the States. And he was looking for another job. They were both looking for other jobs. People would take her aside and say, you know, you're ruining his career, because he would only go somewhere that would bring her along too, because she was an incredible scientist. And they, as a family, got a lot of pushback. They're like, you're ruining his career, although they were working together, doing this important work together.
And a lot of the women, many of these women would be the only woman in their college or university science or engineering program, or the only woman on their job. And they sort of had to push I guess Headstrong, they had sort of had to push their way. Well, why the title Headstrong?
I mean, that's it. I mean, the thing that really overwhelmed me when I was doing the research for this book was just how many times these women were told no over and over and over as they were going through school. Oh, no, science isn't for you, and no, this position is not for you, and no, there's no way that you could get a PhD because women don't do that, and how they were able to find really creative ways around that. And I think, you know, in my own life, if different people had told me no my whole career, I don't think that I would be where I was. Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned also, a lot of times they did work for years without getting paid. They'd have side jobs to support their science work. The German physicist who you mentioned, Maria Mayer, worked for no pay for years before her research on why neutrons and protons rotate at different levels of orbit won her a Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
So you're unemployed for many, many, many years, but the work you do went you this amazing prize. They frequently had to work without labs or in makeshift laboratories and closets or attics.
Yeah, I mean, or in different departments altogether, because the department that they should be in said, oh no, you're not allowed to have an office here. And so we literally go around universities looking for spare space to do their work. And these are not just kind of any scientists. These are some of these are Nobel Prize winners who had to do their work out of closets.
I was particularly impressed by Alice Hamilton, the American bacteriologist who became, I guess, the foremost expert on workplace hazards. She was also the first woman hired by the Harvard Medical School, but she faced certain restrictions. She couldn't ask for faculty tickets to Harvard football games. She was barred from the Harvard Club, and she was not permitted to participate in commencement ceremonies.
Yeah, and it tells you a little bit about the time, because she said, oh, well, besides that, it was a really warm welcome.
And there were many times when, you know, often scientists have together with partners during their research. There are many times when their male associates or research partners took credit for their discoveries. Could you tell me about some cases where that happened?
Yeah, so Lise Meitner, I think, is a really famous one, and she is responsible for nuclear fission, but she did not get the Nobel Prize for it. She kind of she put the group together, but then was forced out of her position because she was Jewish and she had to leave the country. But she made a really big leap in understanding, and that kind of leap in understanding was passed on to the people who were working on it while she was away.
Discovered nuclear fission, right?
Yeah, in the discovery of nuclear fission, and they took credit and she did not.
And did they win the Nobel Prize for it?
Yes,
and
they
she
did.
was not. And
she was
did
not included in that. And that also made research really hard for it. Because imagine we're going back and we're trying to kind of think about the big people in different fields and the people who made these big strides, but their names aren't on the papers. It's maybe their male counterparts that are on the paper.
So how do you find out about her contribution?
So there are other people who thankfully have told her story. In a lot of cases, it's maybe a male counterpart who said, okay, well, if I don't talk about this person's work now, and I'm the one to say it, we're going to lose it forever. Mm-hmm. There's another one, Hildy Mangold. She died really young, but her thesis project ended up getting her advisor a Nobel Prize, and she died by the time that he got the Nobel Prize. He mentioned her once, and somebody that she worked with around that time was getting older in his career, and he's like, if I don't write her story now, we're never going to know about the work she did. Because
sometimes what would happen if the advisor advising this person, they do research, but the advisor puts their name on the paper and takes credit for the paper.
Yes.
Probably happens to male scientists as well.
So in that case, her name, that the other students did get their names on the paper, but she didn't.
Okay, okay. The discoveries of women scientists were often ignored or rejected or even scoffed at until many years later when their discoveries were confirmed by male scientists. You mentioned Barbara McClintock, an American geneticist who did experiments with corn and discovered that genes are much more fluid than scientists previously thought, that genes can switch on and off and change locations. But her ideas were not accepted until decades later.
Yeah.
And 32 years after her discovery, she did finally win the Nobel Prize for this, so she got some recognition for it. Of the women that you wrote about, what were some of your favorite stories, or who were some who really spoke to you?
So you mentioned Alice Hamilton. I really love Alice Hamilton. I'm a journalist, and I kind of think her methods were a little journalist-like. She did a lot of field work. So she, when she was part of the Illinois Occupational Disease Commission, she went out looking to see what industries had lead and how that was affecting the workers. Now, she knew absolutely nothing about it. And so she had to go into these factories and kind of assess the situations, but then the managers realized, oh, you're going to be trouble for us, so they started blocking her out and not letting her in. And she said, oh, no problem. So then she started going to the hospitals and pulling records and interviewing people at home, and her work was just really groundbreaking. And I love the creativity that it took as a scientist.
In terms of discovering occupational hazards that people were working under.
Yes, yes.
We're going to take a short break, then we'll be back to talk about some more of the women in your book with Rachel Swaby after this message. Welcome back to One to One. I'm Sheryl McCarthy, and I'm talking with Rachel Swaby, the author of Headstrong, 52 Women Who Changed Science and the World. One of the women you write about is Florence Nightingale, who everybody knows is the woman, the nurse with the lamp in the Crimean War. But she was really much more than that, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was a great statistician. I mean, she was able to kind of take information about how people were getting sick in war and how that was actually a bigger problem than they previously imagined, put it all together and kind of reveal the data. Like, look, we're having all of these problems. We need to take better care of our soldiers or else they're not going to be able to fight for us.
And using that data to figure out what the causes were.
Yeah.
Which led you to what you could do about it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I read a biography of Florence Nightingale and was amazed because she was bedridden for much of the latter part of her life. But from her bed, she practically created the whole public health system of India and Britain, and she did really amazing things through all of her contacts and her, as
she
you said,
a prolific letter writer.
Yeah.
And she trained nurses, as we know, all through her letters. It was pretty amazing the work that she was able to do from home.
Now, Hedy Lamarr is not somebody we thought of as a scientist. Tell me about her.
Yeah, so she was an inventor too.
The actress.
The actress,
right.
Hedy Lamarr, was an inventor. You know, she got to Hollywood and was kind of bored. She was like, I don't want to go to these parties. I'm not interested in any of these things. And so in her spare time, she tinkered around and she met a pianist. And the work that they did together, they were able to figure out how torpedoes can better communicate. Her work was the kind of basis for Wi-Fi.
And I was looking at some of the other women that you write about. Alice Ball, an American chemist who developed a form of, I guess the only treatment for leprosy was the oil of the certain tree.
Chalmugra oil.
Right, but it was it was thick, viscous, hard to administer, and she developed a form of it that could be injected and absorbed into the body and was very effective in treating leprosy patients.
They knew that chalmugra oil did something, but they were rubbing it on the skin and it wasn't doing much, and they were ingesting it, it wasn't doing much, and they could inject it, but because it was oil, it would just kind of sit in a lump under the skin, and she was able to come in and formulate treatment of the chalmugra oil that could be injected, and actually did good work. Mm-hmm. So much good work that that the kind of cases of leprosy, she was able to kind of treat leprosy until a better treatment came in decades later.
Virginia Apgar, the physician who developed just a very simple test that's still administered to newborns, which can indicate whether they're healthy or whether they're struggling.
Yeah, she found that we just didn't, that when she was doing medicine, like there was not a test like that. Like they would look to see if a baby was breathing, but some people would say, oh yeah, the baby took its first breath, but 2 minutes in. That's not the same thing as taking its first breath, 5 seconds in.
Right.
And so she standardized that. I had no idea that Apgar was a person before I did my research.
Right.
I was pleasantly surprised.
Right,
to realize.
but this very simple test
Yeah.
that she developed, and is named for her. In your profiles, you often write about very technical, very obscure, very complex phenomenon and rules of science, math, physics, medicine, astronomy, and you explain them. You do a good job of explaining them to the reader, but even sometimes when you explain them, I still didn't know it. I still couldn't understand what they were about. How do you master these concepts?
Well, so I am not a scientist. That should be very clear. I was an English major, but I always loved science growing up, and then at some point decided it wasn't for me. Got into English, and then got out and ended up at Wired magazine. And my job there was to kind of turn complicated science concepts into something that other people could read. And I found that it was actually a good place to start from if you have the patience, because if you just sit with the information long enough and you ask enough good questions, finally someone will explain it to you. Right. And then you kind of transfer that to the page, which is helpful. So lots of research.
Long ago, I was a newspaper reporter. I wrote a story about Rosalind Yallow, who is one of the women you write about in the book. She was a physicist, a nuclear physicist who won a Nobel Prize for finding a way to measure hormones in a test tube by looking at their antibodies, a process called radioimmunoassay, which I gather transformed the whole medical field of endocrinology. And I happened to run into her when she was giving a talk to a group of elementary school girls. Wow. I think it was a Catholic school. And I remember her telling her audience, basically, she's very humble. She's saying, I'm no big deal. There's nothing extraordinary about me. Basically, I won this prestigious award for just working hard at my day job. And that was her message. And if you work hard at what you do and do it really well, then sometimes great prizes come to you, sometimes they don't, but that's what you want to do, and I have never forgotten that.
So that, equal parts, I think, is absolutely true. What you see in these profiles is kind of a very condensed version of somebody working hard their entire life. But it also makes me a little frustrated because I kind of feel like, you should own your accomplishments as well. Like, what is special about you is that you worked your whole life and persevered when other people didn't, and that is pretty remarkable.
Was there something that surprised you, or what surprised you most when you were researching these women?
Can I tell you something really personal that surprised me the most? There was a mathematician named Sophie Kowalewski, and she was a playwright. She wrote Personal Reminiscence of George Eliot, and she approached mathematics with such creativity. And I had always thought that mathematics was, memorization, and I wasn't that good at it. But she said, it's a mistake of the uninformed to confuse mathematics and arithmetic. Arithmetic is just kind of adding and subtracting, and mathematics is like poetry. And that just blew my mind, because I had never thought about mathematics that way. Mm-hmm. And the creativity that she really brought to her discipline was evident, that she was so successful for it because of that. And I wish more people knew, or I had known when I was younger, that if I worked hard enough at mathematics, it could be this kind of creative endeavor.
When it comes to what we call STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, math, male and female students perform equally well in school. But in the professional workforce, men far outnumber women. Women are only 35% of the chemists, 11% of physicists and astronomers, 10.7% of electrical or computer hardware engineers. That's today. Why do you think that is?
So I've gotten a lot of different answers for that question. And I think one is that women reach some point and then kind of think, well, they look around and they only see men, and they think, okay, well, maybe this field is not for me. Maybe there's not a place for me in this field. So that's one thing. Another thing that I have heard from scientists over the years is that, the lab environment was created by men, and that as a woman, it is clear, that it doesn't feel quite as comfortable, it's not as social, and that, we should rethink those environments with everybody in mind to make them more inclusive.
What do you want the message of this book to be?
I think we should be talking about the groundbreaking women in science just like we're talking about the groundbreaking male scientists. I think this should start very early. Our education about this should start very early. A woman discovered the inner core of the earth. When we learn about that in elementary school, Inga Lehman's name should be attached to it. And so at a very young age, girls are learning, oh, there is a place for me in all different fields.
Hertha Ayrton, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, the British physicist, who did work on the electric arc that improved lighting and also created a device to shield soldiers from chlorine gas, said, quote, "Personally, I do not agree with sex being brought into science at all. The idea of women in science is entirely irrelevant. Either a woman is a good scientist or she is not. In any case, she should be given opportunities, and her work should be studied from the scientific, not the sex point of view." And I gather that is pretty much the message of your book?
Yes, that is the message of the book.
Very, very interesting. As I said, I had heard of almost none of these women, even though they made amazing discoveries and contributions to science. And I think a lot of people are going to find this very informative and hopefully inspirational. We're out of time. I want to thank Rachel Swaby for joining me today. Her book, Headstrong, 52 Women Who Changed Science and the World, has been published by Broadway Books and is available online and in stores now. For One to One, I'm Sheryl McCarthy. If there are any people you'd like to hear from or topics you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.